Hello guys, Jared speaking. Welcome to LJPCBM React, episode number 551. Hope you enjoyed the 550th episode special of LJ React's last time I checked, last Sunday. And today, we're reacting to Purple Roads episode 35. Grabski of the tour production manager of the Purple Roads, not the Purple Roads, but the tour business manager, excuse me, of these stage tours. We'll react to those beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Gotta turn on my TV now.
I'm Kerry Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour, and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show, Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Kerry Stinson, and this is Purple Roads.
Welcome to another episode of Purple Roads. I'm Kerry Stinson, and this is such an exciting week for me. This is a really good friend of mine that I've known for a long time. Grabski. I knew him back on the Barney's Big Surprise. He was our tour manager, and we've just become such good friends over the years. He has got an extensive career in this business, and we're going to talk about it all. Glenn, how are you?
Hey, Kerry, how are you? Long time no see.
I know. It's crazy that we have to see each other through Zoom. But I'm getting to see you through Zoom, and I love it. How you been?
Doing well. This whole COVID stuff is a little bit taxing, on everyone, but, getting along. Been in Tucson now for about 5.5 years.
Wow.
6 years in October. So, it was a nice change. Getting nice to be back towards closer to my family up in Phoenix.
Well, we miss you here in Texas, but...
Well, I miss Texas. I'll tell you what, I do miss Texas a lot. There's a lot to be good things to be said about Texas.
Well, we talk about it a lot on this show, and I got my Texas shirt on.
Wow.
Represents, but I love your family, so I'm glad you're close to them too. I guess why don't we this has been happening a lot lately. We've been talking about COVID, so why don't we talk a little bit about what you're going through it. We had Harold, good friend Harold Barron's on not too long ago, and he's in the industry as well, and I know it's been a real challenge.
It has been a challenge, and I feel sorry for anyone in the live event industry. And we were the first people out of the pool. We'll be the last people back in the pool. So it goes on with not just you think about shows and sporting events, but it's the performing arts. It's it's the theater. It's trade shows and conventions and banquets and all that. That every one of them, I have 300 employees here at the TCC, the convention center, which is a convention center, a small arena, and 2 theaters. And we're all, most people haven't worked since March. And I don't know when we're going to come back because I don't know when we're going to be able to do events again. So it's tough. So everyone's got to hang in there, and we'll get through it. Just wish it was quicker than I thought. I mean, back in March, I was talking with people going, what are you doing canceling July events? We'll be back at it by then. And now it's like, well, hopefully by January.
It's crazy. We started doing this show on Zoom when all this happened, and I did 15 shows, and I thought it might be 2 or 3, so it really is crazy. So let's start at our beginning, which was the Barney days. You came on the second year of Barney's Big Surprise.
Yeah, the second leg of the first tour.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I took over the spot for Radar.
For Mark.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a great guy. He was a great guy. So I got talked into it by Jake Berry.
And we had Jake on Purple Tails.
Yeah, the man.
Yes.
Which I react to, by the way. Continue on.
Jake Berry.
Yes.
So back, I guess it must have been 97. I toured with him in 94 on the Stones tour, and they went back on to another stadium tour in around that time. And I missed jumping on that tour, and later I went, man, I miss a stadium tour. I like to do a stadium
Wow.
tour.
Because what were you doing before that?
So I was with Kenny Rogers for the longest time.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll talk about Kenny.
We need to talk about that golfing at his house.
Yes.
Exactly.
So Kenny gave me some time off to do the Stones, and actually I did both jobs for 6 months. But anyway, so I called Jake and I said, "Well, Stones are already going out. What about you two?" Right? And he was like, "No, I got another tour for you. It's great. I'm gonna retire off of this thing. You're gonna love it. It's one settlement a week. All this stuff." Okay, Jake, who is it? I'm not gonna tell you. Right? And that went on for days. He'd call me like every day. Well, what do you think? Well, who is it? I'm not gonna tell you. Right? And so finally, I was going through some stuff with the family and everything else, and I finally said, you know what? There's worse things than hooking onto the Jake train. And I said, that's a good train to hook onto. I said, okay, Jake, I'm your man. Who is it? He goes, Barney the Purple Dinosaur. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. And honestly, I had no kids. I was divorced, no kids, never had anything. So I don't get it or anything else. And I remember being in Birmingham, Alabama during our rehearsals, getting ready for the second leg, and setting up my office and my road case and stuff, and the playback tape came on with Baby Bop and BJ on it. And I was like, oh, wow, what did I get into?
And did you have any idea at this time how big Barney was?
No, not a clue. Like I said, I had no kids, right? Nothing, so I had no reference point to it.
Right.
So, but I do remember that it was the next day or the day after that, I went on my first hospital visit.
Wow.
And watched that, and I went, wow, okay, I'm starting to get this. And then I watched, then the first performance, and I went, okay, I really get this. And it was great. It was a great tour. It was lots of fun. Met lots of great people. Obviously met you and Shawnee and H and just everyone. Everyone on the tour was fun. It was interesting touring with dancers and actors, which I've never done before.
Wow.
They were all great. A little bit different on a bus when bus food is now hummus. Really?
Yeah,
man.
That was not me with the hummus. As people that know me know it wasn't me with the hummus.
Yeah. No, I mean, in my background, they had beer and chips.
Right.
No, you got two food groups covered.
Man.
Which was crew bus, right?
What's that?
That was kind of the crew bus, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was always, I was our bus. I was on your bus with the cast and stuff, and Kathy Lloyd from the lighting birds and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So so it was a good bus.
Wow.
But it was fun. It was a fun tour. It was a great place. Doing Mexico City was fantastic.
We've talked about in this show about Monterey.
Oh God. Yeah, I even pushed cases that day. Yeah. We showed up in Monterey, and there was no stagehands.
Yeah, no hands showed up.
Yeah, and so I can't remember, it was Jake or somebody turned to me and says, "You can start pushing cases," and I was like laughing at him. And he goes, "No, seriously, get out here." And I went, "All right." So yeah, pushing cases, and yeah, it was if I remember right, it was like an amphitheater, like you see here, the Live Nation amphitheaters in the States. It was exactly what that venue was.
Yeah.
But it was also like 100 degrees.
It was blazing hot. It was blazing hot out. Yes, I remember that. Yeah, everyone's took their shirts off. Oh gosh, what was the carpenter's name? Oh, he's now a tour production manager. Yeah, he has
Is that Seth?
No, he has a big. He had evil tattooed across his back.
Wow.
And his joke was, the lady said something about it. He goes, "Evil? I thought it said Elvis."
Man.
He always wanted to be. We talked about it for a long time about he wanted to become a production manager. I believe that's what he's doing now. So good for him. Good guy. Lots of good people on that tour.
Yeah, we talked about it recently with having H on the show, but it's so interesting because a lot of the crew came from rock and roll.
Wow.
Right. And I give Jake and Sloan big credit for the way they handled the cast and crew on the tour. It clearly is not the business model that family shows do.
Right.
You go get nice tour buses. You don't basically the most part, have single rooms and stuff. They all double up. It's even worse than that. And so they took good care. They basically took rock and roll values of touring and
Wow.
applied to it. There's cheaper ways to tour than that, and they didn't have to do it, but it was a great. So I give them credit for sticking up and taking care of the people.
Wow.
Yeah, I always laugh because, and you probably remember this, but we were flying originally, and
Wow.
the cast didn't want to be on tour buses because we thought, when you hear bus for actors, and it wasn't really me because I was still doing Barney at that time, so I didn't have the reference. But most of them thought, you're talking about a bus and truck tour.
Wow.
So when the buses show up and you see what they are, you're like, oh my goodness.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Quite honestly, most of those family shows, they're all like a Greyhound, whatever is the stagecoach thing. So yeah, I give them credit for that. And that leg was fun. It was a blast. Finishing up in the UK was a lot of fun for me. I love touring over there. The big thing then was for me was that I went to go work in the office.
Yeah.
I went to go work directly for Sloan and did the booking and routing and everything else for the next couple tours. And that was really a big move for me career-wise.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk about that because you did Barney and Bob the Builder and then the Wiggles and
Again, Bob the Builder. Boring. Continue on.
so a lot there. But we mentioned it, so let's tell the story of playing golf. You introduced me
Wow.
to Kenny Rogers.
Yes, yeah. So we were in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
And I called up to KR, and he built
Yeah, rest in peace, Kenny Rogers. Continue on.
a golf course in his front yard. It started off as a putting green. I was there when I was working for him at the time, and which is a whole other story about that. But we'll cut to the chase on this one. And we grabbed Brain, one of the truck guys.
Yeah. Which you said you knew Kenny Rogers, but I really didn't. I don't think I'd only known you for a little while at that point. I don't think I grasped the whole thing. I don't think I grasped the golf course thing.
Yeah, I'd worked for him and ran his office and stuff for 10, 11 years.
Wow.
And I started when I was 27 or something like that. I started, and so yeah, I called, hey, can we come out and play golf? Oh yeah, come on out, whatever, right? So we grabbed Brain. Remember, we piled into that Peterbilt without the trailer, and we piled.
Man.
90 minutes up,
Man.
out, to Athens, outside Kenny's house, and you pull up to the gate, and security lets you in and stuff, and pull up the main house. And yeah, I remember walking into the house with the kitchen, and into the family room where he was with you, and he was
You had talked to him. You had warned us and said he's shaved, and I think that was the goatee. He'd gone to the goatee.
right.
You were kind of preparing us. Hey, we walk in this door. He's probably right there. So.
Yeah, just be prepared. He's gonna be here, right? So no, we walked in the family room. I think he was kicking back on the couch, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, well, great golf. Yeah. You know where the golf carts are. You know where the balls and gloves and everything are, and there you go."
Well, yeah, but the part that is my favorite, or two of my favorite parts of that, I didn't realize his dogs were going to be out there.
Wow.
About the brown labs.
Yeah, if we hit a tee shot, they'd be jumping in the air trying to grab the ball.
Two chocolate labs. Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. It made it interesting because golf's not hard enough as it is.
Well, right.
It was going to drill one of those dogs and kill it. Oops, sorry, sir.
Well, right. And then
Wow.
on the back nine, and number 9 is in his yard.
I mean, listen, you tee off, right by the garage, and you go, not that way.
Man.
All 18 holes were in the front yard of the compound. It was wild.
Yeah, I always thought that was just the coolest thing about touring. And Jake had a lot to do with that as well. That we get to go to a show, or we get to have an incredible. Some of my most incredible experiences of my life were things of that nature, and such a mix. From doing hospital appearances were so just rewarding, and then you get to go do things like that. It was an unbelievable experience.
Wow.
I have a tendency to do this on the show where I go forward and then I want to go backwards, and I want to go backwards right now. How did you get started into this? Because you've been doing this a long time, booking acts and settlement and all the thing that you've been doing, the business end of tours. How'd you get started?
Uh, Long story, we're trying to shorten it up. Freshman year in college, as a pledge at a house, and when you're a pledge, you kind of slave labor in a way, right?
And what school were you at?
What's Arizona, University of Arizona Tucson.
Which I know that, but I want to make sure everyone else knows that.
University of Arizona Tucson. So I'm back to my college
Yeah.
now, and I started working doing ushering and hanging posters and stuff for the student-run concert board, and I can't remember third, fourth, fifth show in. I'm like 5'7", 125 pounds, and I'm on the stage door, into the house, looking for, I had a backstage pass to get past me, right? But
Right.
right, that leads the door leads into backstage, and it was Harry Chapin, and
Wow.
Harry Chapin was on stage, and I watched this man just hold the audience, and for the encore, lights went up, the power went off on stage. They're starting to strike the stage. He comes out because no one was leaving. Comes out with a chair, brings it down to the downstage edge, and says, if those who want to leave can, those otherwise come in. Power's off. I'll play more couple songs acoustic.
Wow.
And I remember that night saying, I want to do this for a living. Now, fast forward, I ended up running the concert board at school. At the time, doing arena size shows and theater shows and stuff. Got out of school, went for work for a promoter out of Phoenix. I'm out of Denver, but had an office in Phoenix. Barry Fay Line, worked in Kansas City for him and stuff, and then made the transition to touring with Kenny back when I was like 27. So I've been,
Wow.
When I was in college, I really, once I got that bug, this was what I was going to do.
Wow.
And I kind of worked all sides of it, from being on the road to managing tours to now managing venues.
A lot of people, especially a lot of people on this show, I find out, and I was the same way, that my plan was never to be in children's entertainment.
Wow.
But it's so rewarding. It's so amazing. You were involved in so many of these children's tours. What was that experience when you started seeing, not only the special needs and seeing the hospitals, but seeing that crowd? Those kids seeing that purple dinosaur and singing "I Love You" and all of that. What was that like for you?
It really was an eye opening, and it puts a big grin on your face. It really does.
Wow.
The reason why you're in this business, especially on my end and stuff, my type of end, where I'm not an entertainer, I can't play a note, but is to help create those experiences. And you see these 2 to 5 year olds just in awe, big saucer eyes, singing along, and just and that's real to them. That's real life up there, and it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal, and the out of all the tours that I've done, or Barney was the one that really the kids were just in awe and
Man.
starstruck. It was bigger than life. For that.
What challenges did you have with, and we can use Barney Tour, that you didn't have in like Kenny Rogers and those tours that you had with kids shows?
Well, you just got to get used to some certain things,
Wow.
The contract says you can't sell beer.
Man.
Third city. Oops, sorry. I didn't check it. I used to brief the ushers before the first performance of what to expect, what we allow, what we don't allow, that kind of thing. And I used to always kind of joke with them, saying, "Hey, listen, when you're walking around the concourse, look down, because you're not going to see our patrons,
Yeah, exactly.
Next week, if you don't watch out for it." I think overall, it's not necessarily the audience and stuff, that type of challenge with that. It was interesting making the switch over to the family show business, and when I first made that switch, primarily when I went to go work in the office,
Right.
it was, I kind of came in there with a little attitude. I've done rock and roll, I've done country, what's this family show?
Wow.
These are a bunch of, they don't know what they're doing. And quite honestly, thank God, Barney was white hot. because I made some
Man.
mistakes, but I got away with it because he was the show was doing great business and everything. But I learned
Wow.
very quickly the family show business is very sophisticated about how their ticket pricing and their marketing and their PR. They have it
Mhm.
down to a science, you know. Especially companies like Dell Entertainment and everything, which is a whole other subject.
Wow.
But it it really was. It was a lot to learn. I grabbed it.
Mm.
And luckily, I grabbed it fairly quickly and was able to jump into it. But it was funny. I was like, oh, these bumpkins. I should put my stuff.
But I talked to Harold about that too a little bit, right? Those are all rock and rollers, with the Stones and
Exactly.
AC/DC. And
ACDC, yeah! Continue on.
they were all shocked at how big the crowds were and how loud the crowds were.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
lots of decibels. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, the kids would be screaming like crazy. And it was fun. It was fun to watch. It was fun to go out in the crowd when the curtain first opened and all, and um, it had the energy of any rock show.
Well,
When we had the curtain, it was really wild. It was fun, and it was also watching the parents watch their kids. That's a big part of it too, and because they're just the kids are into it and just glued to the stage, and you're watching the parents watch their kids with big smiles on their faces.
Well, and that's one of my favorites, and I've seen that a lot over the years. Probably especially fathers who went to shows kicking and screaming,
Right.
and then their child is watching, let's say, "I Love You" song, and looks over and kisses their dad and says, "I love you, Dad," and it turns into one of the most incredible experiences. And they're like, "Oh, now I get this, right?" And
Right.
and I think that was because what parents have to go through to take a kid to one of those shows, especially those Saturday morning shows that were early. They're getting up at 5 in the morning, and then they got to load the kids up, and I mean it's an ordeal to do something
Yeah,
like that.
it's a lot. I used to call the Saturday morning shows the single parent shows. That's where you must have seen that where dad or mom has the kids that weekend. But it was great. They all kind of rolled in and a little sleepy eyed maybe at the beginning, but it was good.
What was the? Did you like a week where we were in town, or split weeks where we did two towns?
Well,
What was
it's
easier? What was harder about that?
well, so it's interesting because when you sit in town for a week, tour goes longer. I mean, because especially when you come from a tour that you're hitting a new city every night.
Right.
You get into that mode. It's funny because by the end of it, it's like, oh, we got a split week. Oh my gosh, that's so
wow.
much more work.
Okay.
But for me, it was split weeks are a little bit tougher because when you're doing the financials of the any one market with multiple shows, when it's easier to do it over a full week. When you just got a couple nights, you're just jumping. You're really hammering to make sure you get it done because you need to be done and over with and everything signed. By the time the buses roll out, and that just made it on a Tuesday, Wednesday made it a little bit tougher, but really not that much more for me. So
So you go back to Dallas and you start working in the office, and obviously you were still booking Barney for a while, but then Bob the Builder comes
yeah,
along, and what a crazy show that was.
it was nuts. It was funny. Sloan and I, so their studios got bought out by Hit Entertainment, and obviously Hit owned Bob
Yeah.
and stuff, and so they come back and go, okay, we want a tour, right? And so Sloan and I fly over to London, and we walk into this meeting, just kind of jet lagged and everything else, as soon as we got there,
Wow.
guys. And one of the executive producers go, I don't know why we're going to do a tour. We're not going to do one. And I turned to Sloan and said, let's go catch a flight. But no, we're going to do a tour and everything else. And they said, well, we want numbers. Can you put numbers together? And, or kind of a budget or performance kind of thing. And we hadn't done anything like that or anything. And so Sloan and I jumped in a spare office and we were just off the top of our heads, just, I'm typing into a spreadsheet. She's, throwing numbers at me. And the biggest one, we were laughing about how we were trying to figure out how much to have those units, the cars and
Yeah,
everything
yeah, yeah,
else,
yeah.
the machinery and stuff, to recreate that. And yeah, we were way off. What we versus what they ended up doing. But the designers and the builders, I mean, they did a phenomenal job recreating those. I mean, worked really well on stage with them.
Yeah, it was really amazing. I think all those tours, Barney's and Bob the Builders, on the set. I mean, these
Yeah.
were. I think people think of little kid shows. These are very advanced shows.
Yeah, it was a good set. I mean, listen, the sets for Barney were all done by Tay Towers. They
Yep.
do it does everybody. They do all the big tours, all the big touring stuff. Um, they're a huge company now. Winky running that now, but yeah, and then the Bob the Builder show was different because we ended up playing it on the floor. So it was not on a stage. The only way to do it was to recreate a thing where you're basically using the size of a hockey.
So that's like one of the ice shows, like
Yeah,
Disney.
it wasn't on ice because
Well,
we
no,
had
but you would use the same coverage.
yeah, it was about maybe it was a little bit larger than that.
Okay.
Probably by maybe a third. Because most ice shows, like if you did Disney on Ice, their
Wow.
capacity is it's almost half house,
Okay.
and this is going to be a little bit more than that. So it made it a little bit of a challenge when you're setting up the box office when you're ahead of time and trying to guess, ticket prices, sight lines, all that type of stuff, which seats to hold, which are good seats, that type of thing. But once you take a good guess at it, you make your changes during when you start doing rehearsals, and then a couple shows into it, you learn your lessons on what you didn't get right, and you correct it, and on the next shows that you put up on sale.
Do you? Is it different? These are questions I've always wanted to ask you, so I'm asking.
That's all right.
Um, oh, I think people find them fascinating too. Are sight lines different for a rock show compared to a kid show?
It all depends on what the stage is. I think
Do you have to make it like?
Wow.
I think isn't there a difference between an adult who knows on their ticket that their sight line might be compared to how do you explain to a kid if they can't
exactly.
see?
So we're really good. We were really strict. If I remember, like with Big Surprise, uh, we had a certain point done on when we sent a CAD to a building. It was so this one point so far up from the downstage edge, and at that point it's 120 degrees or whatever it was. That's your sight lines, right? And a building would drop that into their CAD of their building, and we would pretty nail it. The other thing that was interesting with Barney and stuff was you scaled some stuff back, because we were playing some fairly big arenas, and if you're selling that back row
Mm,
to a 2-year-old, Barney's he might as well be on television,
right.
up in the top row and up in the 300 level kind of thing. So we approached that way. We're smart. We wanted everyone wanted to give a good product for a decent price, and I think it was a good value for the money.
Can you think of a? And I know this has been a while, so don't worry. And I forget stuff all the time, so don't worry memory wise. But can you think of a building that was challenging for whatever reason, getting the set in there or sight lines or anything like that? One specifically. I know when I talked to Harold
There's a
about
few.
this.
There's a few. Luckily for getting a set in and everything, that was H's problem, not mine.
Yeah,
Uh,
and he talked about Toronto, Sky
Toronto's
Dome.
the Sky Dome it's funny because I would think besides the rigging there, uh, there's so much room in there. I would think it's pretty easy. I can't remember how we addressed the cutoff. They have a curtain there that they hang or what, but yeah, playing the Sky Dome was interesting.
Well, they had. He said the kids were put on the stage.
Oh yeah, yeah. Can it's like you almost need T-shirt bouncer security up front. You try to
Wow.
keep away from having big beef up there, but sometimes you almost need it because every parents love to put their kids up on stage. 5 feet up. Here you go. It's just like no,
Wow.
neighbors. Or especially when you put a kid in there, and all of a sudden they go running upstage or the like, oh, my party. You know, we had a few of those, didn't we? Oh gosh, I forgot all about those.
I know. I think it's hysterical. Um,
No, but for me it was interesting because I spent, especially for a week, I spent so much time talking to arena managers and the box office managers, and all throughout the week, during that stuff, and it was great. I learned a lot from them, and which I was able to take when I made the jump into booking it. I knew what they were looking for. I knew what type of deals, what were their items that they needed to cover to make it work for them. Which it was half the battle when you're cutting deals.
so, what was the difference for you going from on the road to now you're booking the show?
It was interesting because I wanted to get off. You get this point, it's like I can't be on the road forever, so I might as well get off now.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest difference, I think we were kind of laughing about it before. I turned 40, sit behind a computer, and within 6 months, I'm wearing glasses. I'm going from 175 on my way to 230. I partially blame you, Carrie. It was too many snuffer nights.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about, and I got the glasses now too, so I'm with
Wow.
you there.
It was interesting. Also dealing with in a corporate structure. Even though Lyric Studios was a very uh, great place to work. It wasn't a stiff corporate culture. But yeah, also you're doing meetings, this and a meeting to make a meeting. It's like when you're on the road, you have to make a decision in 10 minutes and live with it.
Right.
You know, but it was great. It was a great learning curve.
Wow.
Obviously some great people working in the office. Another good friend now is Tom Greenwood, who in the office, Joyce and Debbie and all those. And it was a great experience from basically day one to the very end. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the people forever. I mean, so many wonderful people, and I think that's has a lot to do with why Barney was so successful.
Yeah, and I
On
would
all
be,
sides.
and we shall not forget to call out Randy.
Yeah, of
He's-
course.
Randy was uh, unbelievably great help for me, and
Wow.
what a great mind and imaginative and knew the business inside and out, TV business.
Well, and
Well,
yeah, obviously he did a lot for me too,
Wow.
and very thankful to Mr. Dalton.
yes, Mr. Dalton. Yeah, hope he's doing great.
Yes, yes. So all of that prepares you to go with our Purple Road friends, the Wiggles.
Yeah, so Sloan and I, was it, gosh, 2005, 4 or 5-ish? We decided to go just straight with the Wiggles. And we opened up their U.S. office, which was a small little office in outside of Dallas, and
Wow.
did their touring there. And that was interesting because it was, one day you're out, setting up box offices and sending out box office builds and touring and setting up booking routing and stuff like that. The next day you're back in the warehouse making sure that certain products came in on time, or wrapping a pallet that needed to be shipped out. So, but it was fun, and the Wiggles were great. All those guys were fantastic to work with. I kind of laughed. The only thing that was troublesome is their home office is obviously Australia. So, it inevitably you have like a long day and you go home and it's 6, 7 o'clock at night. Also, you start getting phone calls from Australia. What about this? So your days are a little bit longer, and it's like, all right, it was great. But they were all sensational to work for, and a great message from them too.
Yeah, and they're still going strong. I just had Emma Wiggle on.
Wow.
And the new group, I love them just as much. Anthony's still there and still rocking and rolling. And,
Wow.
I think it's amazing what they've done.
Well, good. I'm glad that they're still going. It's still going. That's great. I haven't had a chance to check out to see how they're doing or anything.
Well, I learned the whole Australian thing too because we had to do an interview late at night for early morning.
Right.
Man.
And well, they've been affected like everyone with the touring.
Right.
Same thing. And I think it's an interesting part that they've become very creative as well, shooting all
Wow.
kinds of videos and doing all kinds of different things to still stay interactive and connected to their fans.
Yeah.
I understand Australia didn't get hit as hard with the COVID stuff as we have. A little bit easier to isolate an island. to the point where I actually hear that there's some buildings looking to reopen. We're starting to do some, lesser capacity events, which is great. Let them, we'll learn from how they do it. So when we're ready to do it, we can follow suit.
Well, yeah, I think we're all learning. Um, so we lost Kenny not too long ago.
Yeah, back in March.
Yeah, what was that for you? You'd been with him for so long. You took me to one of his shows as well. Um, what was he like?
You know,
Wow.
generally a very nice man and very talented, not just as a singer. He was a fantastic photographer. He was unbelievable with design.
Wow.
Just multifaceted. It's funny is the one thing that touring with Kenny and touring with Barney, one thing that was kind of common. I've been very lucky that I had these tours behind me. Is that is a family, and there's people that were had started. One of my best friends, Keith, he started with him back in New Christie Minstrel days, or that almost
Wow.
that, and he was with him till his last show.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, so and Gene Roy and most of the band and stuff, and so it was really a family atmosphere on that tour as well. And he took good care of you. He was a hard worker. He did lots of shows, which and got to see the world on doing shows with KR. From Asia to Europe and South America and everything else. But it's he was a fun guy to be around. He was a golfer. We used to play. We used to play a lot of golf on that tour. Until he had he was going to need rotator cuff surgery, and he kind of backed off of it. Yeah, he was a great guy. And when he passed, that weekend was hard. It was
Wow.
hard for a lot of people, but because it brought back this flow of memories. It was a big part of my life. I mean, I started from probably I was what 27, 28 ish, and when I left to go do the Wiggles, that was like 10 years, 11 years after that. So that was a big chunk of me growing up, and I appreciate the all that I learned. I was just a punk promoter, and then going out and touring. And it was great. I mean, it was great. Doing shows with Dolly was hilarious.
Wow.
you know, and again, my first tour out with him was he was doing shows with Dolly. We were up in Eastern Canada. And I caught up with the tour there. And that was a quick learning curve.
The thing I will always remember about him, and goodness gracious, I mean, when we went, I don't know how long he'd been touring. I mean, for years and years and years.
Wow.
It was like his first show. I mean, I haven't seen as many performers like that. He made the stories that he told in the songs.
Yeah, a thousand
Obviously,
times.
yeah, he had it down, obviously, but it still felt fresh.
Right.
Wow.
And there's a great bio on him. I guess maybe Annie did it or whatever. And if you care to find out a bit more, I can find it somewhere. It's got to be streaming somewhere. It's really well done. It's really well done. They bring about his manager, Ken Cragen. They actually talk to Keith, and everything. And it's really a great story about how he struggled to make it. And they talk about when I guess when the Gambler hit, it was like overnight. Just struggling to sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my parents used to go see him play in Houston.
Wow.
She tells the story about, I think it was a Pizza Inn.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that he was playing back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, when he was doing jazz or upriding or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it was a great part of my life, and I'll always be grateful to him and to everyone that all my friends with him.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, because we're talking about that. I'm thinking about Barney. That same thing. But I mean, no one knew who Barney was. No one knew who that purple dinosaur was.
Exactly.
And you really don't tour right until you're big enough.
Right.
I mean,
well, you tour to get big enough, but you're doing, you're playing in the musical sense. You're playing clubs, and you're trying to graduate to to the bigger clubs, to small theaters, to larger theaters, to small arenas, yeah, to eventually the stadiums. I think that's your goal.
Well, and we had, as you obviously remember, the Wiggles were Barney's opening act there for a while.
Wow.
Breaking it into
Yeah,
America.
the game plan was we're going to try to get them exposure, to people with hit whatever, because they were doing distribution of their DVDs and whatnot. To get them exposure, and then okay, put them on as an opening act, and it went okay. It was kind of novel, and it
Right.
worked. It worked, and again when they hit, especially when they got the Disney contract, to me it was very quick. It probably didn't feel like that to them, but that year or so, them building, but when it ignited, it took off.
Wow.
Well, because they started out as a rock band.
Yeah, that's what originally they were about down in Australia, and they made it apparently went, oh yeah, this ain't making a living. And obviously they have several of them have education backgrounds, so it's not like they just don't have just doing it on the fly. They have
Right.
some learning behind them.
You've talked a second about well, I, two big stories. We talked a little bit about the UK. What was it like taking Barney to the UK? And we'll talk about Mexico as well. Taking Barney outside the U.S.
Let's talk about Mexico first.
Okay.
Because you think there's going to be a language barrier per se.
Wow.
Obviously we had it dubbed,
Right.
and everything, but
Which was a huge challenge for
I gotta
for
think
us.
for the cast it was really tough.
Wow.
Well, we had no idea how fast it was. For the costume performers, we're lip syncing, and it is near double time.
Wow.
Right. You guys were working hard, weren't you?
Yes.
No, but I'll tell you what though. Here's the thing I love about Mexico. This is Mexico City. First of all, Auditorio Nacional is such a unique venue. It's 10,000 seat theater. It's set up as a theater. And then crossing under to our hotel, but across the street from the hotel was the cantina that we hit every night, and it was fun. It was a fun time.
It was a great time.
Uh,
I know. How dangerous is that?
It was dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about touring like that, where I call it per diem burner, where you're sitting in a hotel every night as opposed to moving out in a bus to your next city. Is, well, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go out and eat or drink or go out or do something like that? So you're burning up your per diem. But it was fun. Yeah, and the UK was great. I really enjoyed the UK that trip. I've been there several times before. It was fun, especially for people, the cast and stuff that have never been there before.
Mm-hmm.
You say, okay, you need to go check out these sites and kind of be a tour guide.
Well, and we which I love that this happened. We basically flew over there, and then from there it was buses and trains and all of that.
Yeah, I think we did some train stuff too, didn't we?
We did.
And I think, if I remember correctly, so when we're playing London, we're out at Wembley, and we're staying down in Kensington, right?
Yeah.
We were taking the subway out there, weren't we?
I think we were.
Yeah, kind of thing, as much as anything. Yeah, it was fun. As we talk about it, you know that most of the time in the UK, my free time, I was training for that marathon you talked me into, and so I was every time sightseeing, I'm lacing up my shoes and trying to put in 15 miles. Which, quite honestly, I think if anyone's running is a runner stuff, you can verify this. But twice around the Royal Parks in London is 15 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring up that crazy story. Yes, we had a little marathon bet going.
Yeah, so I paid up, didn't I?
You did.
Yep.
You did. It's a great story in the fact that what people don't know is that I was supposed to be training and I didn't. But I was running around in a purple dinosaur costume, and that kept me in really good shape. So
yeah, you could say, "Oh, I've been in the suit. I don't need training." And I'm like, "No, you don't know what it's like."
Man.
Your body starts changing, and oh my god, your brain starts getting weird on you, and all this kind of stuff. Oh
my brain had been weird for a long time. So
Do you remember what your time was? Like 3 hours 20 or something like that?
three somewhere in that range, 20, 27.
Yeah, I think you qualified for Boston. You ran it back.
Yeah, I also said, check.
Yeah.
Never needed to do that again.
Yeah, I remember you guys laughing at me because I'm like, right over 4 hours, and there's this older gentleman passing me at the end, So
Well, let me tell you, anyone that's run a marathon is kudos. I mean, it just don't.
It's really cool. The training for it is about as cool as running it too.
You mentioned Mexico. I want to talk about that for a second. A couple things. One, we played there 2 weeks.
Wow.
Is that how
2 weeks in that big venue.
Okay, so we were at the Alto National for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time, wasn't it?
It was a long time. It's one of the hardest shows I've ever had to do, for a couple reasons. One, we had to have the altitude kicked my butt. That a lot of people don't know there.
Yeah.
And two, that venue, when you went out on stage, you were out on stage by yourself at the opening for 15 minutes, and no one could get to you. So they told me, hey, once that curtain, we won't be able to see what you're doing for 15 minutes, and then we'll be able to get to you.
Wow.
And I got a little sick on one show, and by the time that curtain opened, 15 minutes, I'm giving every signal you can imagine. Please help me.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to ask you about with Mexico is, and a lot of people talk about that their, I don't know what you want to call it, but the merchandise that the locals make.
Yeah, the bootleggers.
The bootleggers is pretty amazing.
For using a U.S. term. Yeah, so when you approach the theater, you came underneath that underpass and came up to that park, and you're approaching, and it was just packed with people selling Barney stuff. A lot of it was homemade.
Wow.
It wasn't like they bought it and resold it, so obviously it wasn't licensed product. Some of it was pretty good. You would get some of the cast occasionally and go, "Oh, look at this backpack I bought." Like, don't do that, please. Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, but. Yeah, it definitely diminished, put a little bit of a hurt on merchandise sales at the show. Yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah.
And I hear it's not just Barney. I mean, they do an amazing job for whoever, YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a big deal down there for every tour, I guess. So, deep as long as you can walk, it's a deep get up to it. They're all selling. Everyone's selling something. So, yeah, that I like. It's funny. I really do like that theater for some reason. It's just so unique. Yeah, I didn't know that you were out there.
Wow.
On your own for 15 minutes. That's tough.
Yeah, well, whatever you want to call it, Montezuma. I had the revenge, and and I was warned that it could happen. So it was no one's fault, but boy, was that an exciting 15 minutes of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, well, the second time down there is when I got food poisoning. Or maybe it was that time. I don't know.
It was that time. I remember that.
Whoa.
Monterey, it was the flight from Monterey to the city. And I said, we're on an airplane. The salad's going to be okay. I'm going to eat the salad. Yeah. Boy, that night, man, I wanted to die to feel better.
Man.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So you get the chills and the sweats but it was good. But then after that, it was fantastic.
And same for me. When I got over mine, same deal. You're like,
wow,
this is an amazing place, and I think the culture, just meeting all the people and seeing the traditions and everything was just incredible.
Yeah, the whole touring thing, that tour was great. I mean, the U.S. stuff and thinking back, you got me thinking about different buildings and stuff, but just little things that come popping back in your mind about little funny anecdotes.
Wow.
Some of them probably should never be discussed again, but it's all good.
So you leave that and you go to Charlotte.
Yeah. So I was doing the Wiggles.
Wow.
and I got called by, at the time it was called AG Facilities. Uh, they do venue management, and they had a deal with the arena in Charlotte where the Hornets play, Bobcats at the time, to just go in there and book the arena. And
Wow.
it's fine, I'm like, okay, my career, I'm not gonna be able to do this family show stuff for, how long is that gonna last? It's
Right.
time for me to make, well, because I always thought at the end of my career, I'll be in the building, and
Wow.
here's my chance to make that move. And I did. The timing of it, I wasn't great for Sloan. She was about ready to have some surgery, but I had to jump in, and I did. And so I was there for, I don't know, 6 years or so, and that contract was not renewed by the team. They ended up going with a competitor, and so fast forward, I get hired by a company called SMG. That get the opportunity to go to Tucson, and and I'm not kidding you. I remember as a kid, 25, 26 years old, as a promoter, doing a show at the Tucson Convention Center Arena, sitting in the director's office, selling the show, thinking to myself, you know what? When I get old and ready to retire, I'm going to move to Tucson. I'm going to run this building. I'm going to play lots of golf, and and I'll have all the shows I want, right? Because at the time, the size arena, everything played there. So I get the Tucson job. I walk back into the building. That same table's in my office. And somebody says, "Oh, you need a new table." And I said, "Nope, that table's staying." And to the point too is I walked in and walked around, um, introducing myself to the staff and stuff. I walk into the box office, and there's someone that works still working in the box office that used to work there in the '80s,
Wow.
and I'm like, "Donna," and she goes, "Yeah." And she goes, and at one point she goes, "Yeah, I was at your wedding." And I
Yeah.
went, "Wow." She goes, "I still have the champagne flutes."
Wow.
And so my reply was, "Well, you can go smash them, and I'll buy you new ones."
Isn't it unbelievable how the small world it is?
Yeah,
Wow.
so I'm back to it now. I'm playing, not playing maybe a little more golf than COVID, but
Right.
working, working lots of hours. It's
Well,
it's
I
a
want to
great.
get there. I want to go back for a second because
Okay.
you mentioned the Hornets, and who was with the Hornets at the time?
Well, Michael Jordan,
Michael Jordan, and how cool is
right?
that?
Wow.
It was interesting because, again, the small world kind of thing. When Michael officially took over major ownership of the team, he went around and talked to all the, all the employees and stuff. He came by my office and started talking. I said, "Well, Michael, we've met before." And he's like, "What?" I said, "Well, you used to go down to Kenny's house and do that TV show, that weekend thing, play basketball and tennis and golf." And he goes, "Oh, yeah." And then and he immediately turns and goes, "How's Christopher, Kenny's son? How's Christopher?" And I'm like, "Whoa, this guy, I really like Christopher. I hope he's doing good," and everything else. So yeah, it was one of the small little stuff. But yeah, so Michael bought the team, or finished up buying the team when I was there. It was fun working
Mm.
for a team. It, it again, another learning experience. How do you deal with the team and what their priorities are, and everything else.
And all of that probably got you ready for your current. Because I think it's fascinating with your current. Because as you mentioned at the beginning, you're talking about a theater and a symphony, and you've got a lot going on there.
Yeah,
Wow.
life would be easier if I just had one building. But I enjoy the fact that my phone calls go from talking to the opera and the symphony to talking to a trade show to talking to two professional teams, and obviously promoters and agents. So, and each one of those type of clients, they're different. They
Wow.
have different expectations. They have different ways of doing business in a way. Um, my joke is you're dealing with the convention center person, have a cocktail. You're dealing with
Wow.
the arena, you're having beer. You're going to deal with the performing rights, you're drinking white wine. That's basically how I look at it. I don't want to make it seem like it's all about alcohol, but that's how I kind of look at it. They're just different, and um, the the part that I've learned and learned here real quick and stuff is the convention center side of the business, the trade shows, conventions, that kind of thing. And to me, it's new, it's fresh, it's exciting, it's sophisticated. There's a lot to it. So dealing with hotels. That I'm serving on the board of our local Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Tucson. I'm on the executive committee, heavily involved with that and other things
Wow.
in the community. Tucson is great. Downtown has had a fantastic renaissance, and I'm glad to be part of that.
Wow.
So, what are some of the unique acts that have booked there since you've been there?
Well, I tell you what, there's two things I'm proud of here. I'm a business guy, right? So when I got
Wow.
here that year, they had 5 shows. Last year we had 31, right? That's a nice uptake, right? So we're getting more and more shows in here. Um, Doing some campaign rallies was interesting.
I can imagine.
Wow.
Um, that was yeah. Trump was interesting.
Wow.
I can imagine.
We almost lost the doors, and about when we were about to lose the doors, Secret Service cut the mags, cut anybody coming through the magatometers, right? It cut just the mags, and we had about 100 people between the doors and the mags, and I started screaming orders about how we're getting them out of the building, and how we're going to exit the building when this thing's over with, and everything else, and I start just barking orders to the first officer I see.
Wow.
What I didn't realize until later was he was the brand new police chief. If I had to go up there afterwards, like, oh, sorry, chief.
Man.
These doors, and when we get finished, these people are going out these doors, and we're going to set up officers here, here, and here, and stuff. And oh yeah, so it's like, oh, no, sorry, sir. But oops, look at the collar first. See how many bars they have.
Because you're dealing with shows all ages, right? So you
Yeah.
still got family shows that come through there?
Yeah, lots of family, obviously Disney on Ice and stuff. So we got all the Bell stuff, Monster Jam, and,
Yeah.
and all that.
Well, Disney on Ice is a sad thing for me. Continue on.
We have a lot of ballets and stuff as well, and other families, smaller family shows in the theater.
And you've had some rock shows, right?
Yeah, we play Elton. We play 21 Pilots, 1975. We play a few things. Obviously.
Did you have did the Abbott Brothers play there?
Yeah, we had the Abbott Brothers here. That was one of the first shows when I was booked already before I got here, which was great because they're from North Carolina here.
Yeah, big fans.
Yeah, I remember them and telling them we were talking about the show they did in Charlotte on New Year's Eve, where a mirror ball was hanging from a truss and the ringing broke. It went right through the stage that night. That was interesting, but the show went on. But yeah, it's great. But so at any one night though, on any Saturday night, we will have 3, 4 to 5 things happen at one time, from a hockey game and a symphony, and somebody's wedding reception, and something else. So it makes for crazy nights.
Well, one thing I know about you, and people that know you were such a huge music lover, and have such an appreciation for it, and probably why you've done what you've done over these years. What acts have you been, and we can just start about it at your current place, that you were excited about musically?
Well, it's interesting. I've yet to do, and I unfortunately won't be able to do one of my. I have 2 acts that are now my favorites. Right.
Okay.
First, there's acts you see no matter what. The Stones, obviously, right? Love the Stones. But for me, musically, one was John Prine, who just passed away. Right. I would go and catch him. It was always great because I would catch him as a fan and lead.
Wow.
The other one is Robert O'Keefe, and
which we saw together.
Yep. Love Robert O'Keefe. So
wow.
And to me, both of those are those shows are always for me religious experiences, and I love doing that. So I was supposed to go see REK right at the beginning of COVID. Obviously that was one of those things that got canceled out. But I like shows. 21 Pilots was really good. Those guys are great entertainers. The thing about shows that I like more than anything else is that right before the lights go down, and the halls pass. Have Bad Bunny. I don't care who, right? Migos. That vibe in the air that electricity in the air, right when those lights go down and the crowd goes up. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. I don't care who's on stage. It
It
gets me.
never gets old for you.
Gets me every time.
What's your other favorite thing?
I love when hockey games don't go into overtime. How about that?
Now that sounds on the on the business side there.
Wow. Usually by that time of night, you're like, okay, I've been here for 14 hours. It's time to start wrapping things up. That kind of thing. No, I like dealing with people. There's a lot that goes on when you work for a venue now. It's about safety. Safety is the biggest thing. You want to be safe and create the safest environment you can for people. It's now going to be a little bit more. Another layer is going to be added on to us. When we're trying to present a safety as far as disease goes, communicable diseases. So, before it was the challenge that 9/11 created for venues.
Yeah.
And
which is like 2 more days from now, it'll be 19 years. But continue on.
This is just gonna be another layer. And we'll figure it out. We'll make it happen.
Wow.
Well, we always do, and I know they're in really good hands with you in Tucson. I have been wanting to get you on here for a while, and I am so thrilled that you had finally the time to get on here and do this.
Well, I haven't bored anybody yet, but
no, yeah, and you're lucky because usually I ask someone to sing, but I won't make you sing.
You know better than that. You absolutely know better than that. If you're gonna ask me to fire up my stereo behind me and crank it, but I have my own there's working.
One of the greatest things that came out of that Barney tour for me was meeting you and our friendship over the years. And it's Zoom, but it's still awesome to see you. And I'm getting to see the Van Dyke.
Yeah, you like that? This is my Boyd Dyke. I'm growing out there in Coburg.
Wow.
So I was kind of for solidarity for my peeps. So I'm going to shave it when it's over with. But I mean, maybe that way down to here, unfortunately, at that point. But he carried the same thing. You and I became best friends. I love your family. Close with your family. Love your dad. You give your best to your mom for me.
Well, thank you, and I love your folks as well. And I look forward to getting some jokes from your dad soon.
Sorry, you're gonna get them.
I can't wait. Well, thank you so much, Glenn.
All right, Carrie, great seeing you, man.
Hey, it's great seeing you. Thank you so much for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your Purple Road. We'll see you next week.
So that was Purple Roads, episode 35. Glenn Grabski, tour business manager. What do I think about this episode? It was amazing. So far, this episode went to be a success, and so far, this episode went to be a successful one. Anyways, guys, that wraps up with this episode. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one. It's going to be episode 36 of Purple Roads Podcast. Josh from Blues Clues and you. Till next time, it's Lou Jefferson. Goodbye. Peace out, baby. We get more to be asked, guys, very soon. Till then, Jefferson out. See ya.
Given unto me this life I'll never take for granted, and given all the time I failed to really understand it, I never sought to meet the maker of reality, the one who gave the life that which is always happening, but I all the time. I ask Why me? Why was I the one to see things as I do under the moonlight and the sun? Perception is the question, and the giver holds the key.